One of the things that I was talking about in this prior, I should have mentioned, is a couple of things that I really believe in is having a closed schedule and a closed checklist. And then obviously having some standard reconciling processes, procedures that you use. And so I'm going to walk you through how I would do those. So in terms of a formal closed schedule, what this is saying, okay, it's sort of like the who, what, when. You know, this is going to be our last deposit. This is the last time we accept miscellaneous cash. This is the last time we do intercompany. These are the shipments. Whether do these shipments belong in this period or do they belong in the next period? I mean, a typical example of this is your bank deposits. When you're processing your deposits today, it's really the receipts that were deposited in the bank yesterday. And so the question is, at month end, say your month end is on Friday, do you stay late and wait until you get today's deposits at 2 or 3 or whenever the bank sends them to you, and then you get those in, or do you say, okay, we're going to say the cutoff is the last Thursday of the month, and that's the last deposit. Same thing with shipments. I have a client whose last day of the month is technically Friday, but they ship through Saturday. So they allow shipments through Saturday and have their final auto invoice run on Saturday. Intercompany activity, miscellaneous cash. Miscellaneous cash is one of those things that a lot of people, you know, leave until the last minute. And so I suggest that by having this schedule, you can say these are the cutoffs. And I refer to this as the just one more thing syndrome, where somebody's going, wait, I have one more intercompany, I have one more of this. It's like, well, if you publish the schedule, then it makes it a lot easier. And also, you're not the bad guy who says we can't do this. And so here's a typical scenario. So this is the company that I talked about, where they do the last deposit is the Thursday deposit, and they process it on Friday. They allow miscellaneous cash entries up until Thursday at 5, but you'll notice that they allow shipments until noon on Saturday, and then they run their final auto invoice process on Saturday night. And then what they've done is we scheduled all of their period end reports to run starting at about noon on Sunday. That way, what happens is the guy who does the reconciliation, when he comes in on Monday, then he's got all those reports, and they've run in a time when the system is not so busy, so they go a lot more quickly. And so you might look at something like this, and I have examples of this in the paper. There are also a lot of things that you can actually do in advance. As I said before, sometimes people will go, oh, we wait until the end of the month to do our miscellaneous cash. But then here's all this stress that you're dealing with. You could handle that in advance if you wanted to. Some of these things, like accepting and rejecting adjustments and completing your incomplete transactions, there's no requirement that you get those done before you can close the period. I just kind of go with the philosophy that the longer it's been since you did something, the less likely you are to remember exactly what happened. And also, it's just cleaner to say, okay, we don't have any incomplete transactions. And you can just go into the transaction summary screen and check and uncheck the incomplete box and get your incomplete transactions. You can accept or reject the adjustments in the adjustments approval screen. One thing that I do have a tip on that is there have all through the releases, there have been issues with the approve adjustment screen. And so my recommendation is if you have a whole bunch of adjustments you want to approve, I suggest that you approve one, save, approve the next save, reject the next save. Don't just do a bunch and approve them. Sometimes that's caused problems. And clearly, like your lockbox and your auto invoice rejects, hopefully that's something that you're resolving every single day. If nothing else, that way if you don't resolve your auto invoice rejects, then you're not billing the customer, so you won't get any money. And then when you have lockbox exceptions, then you may be trying to collect on something that's already been paid. So obviously those I suggest that you do those on a regular. That should be kind of a daily goal. Now, in terms of unapplied cash, the reality of unapplied cash is you'll always have it. I mean, there's always going to be weird stuff that your customers send you and you go, what? I have no idea what they're trying to do with this. But what I do recommend is that you keep on top of it. One company I went into for sort of to help with their procedures, I went in and we realized that they had $2 million sitting in unapplied cash. I don't think that's acceptable. So there are lots of ways you can do that. In their case, what they did is they had one person whose job it was to basically, we went through the aging. I mean, 90% of the time, once time has passed, it's usually kind of, okay, this invoice goes with this receipt, this invoice goes with this receipt, and it's almost like marking on the aging kind of what goes together. And so I recommend that you kind of set aside maybe a day a week or something like that where you can see, okay, can we match these up, and if not, do we need to call the customer? Because it is a good thing to have the cash applied. Again, if you hate to be collecting on something that they already paid you for. The running revenue recognition can be a slow process depending upon your company, so that's something you may want to run regularly, maybe even weekly. In 11i, you might want to transfer your data to the general ledger and run the GL interface more often than just at month end. It's kind of a procedural issue. And I think because of the use of the accounting with SLA and Release 12, I suggest that you actually run Create Accounting daily.